for Shlema. We're starting Mem Dalet 44, Mem Dalet Amid Beis. Small daf. It's a small amid here. So that's from Amar Ula. The last thing we learned was a concept of Hoyol Viskatsoi Lebein Hashmashas. That if something is set aside for Bein Hashmashas, for non-use, that's considered muktzah. So the concept of muktzah, we say, oh, muktzah, you can't touch it. But muktzah means that it's been designated for non-use on Shabbos. What made it designated for non-use? There's a whole bunch of different possibilities. Could be it actually has no use. That's one of them. It could be that it's mos. It's disgusting. It could be there's an isser. There's a prohibition involved in it. So we said that if it's designated for non-use throughout Bein Hashmashas, so even though after that there may be a use for it, what was our example there? Was the money on the bed. If there was money on a bed over Bein Hashmashas, then you couldn't move the bed afterwards. Otherwise, if there was money on a bed, not Bein Hashmashas, and then so while the money was on the bed, you couldn't move it. When the money was off the bed, you could. If the whole Bein Hashmashas was there, the money was there, then it becomes muktzah for the whole Shabbos. Amar Ula. It's a little over halfway down in this small daf, small amud. Masav Rabbi Eily Elazar. Rabbi Elazar asked a question. We quote this Mishnah from Kalim. It's talking about a wagon. And a wagon could be considered a keli, and possibly it's not a keli. It depends on its size. If it's large enough that it can hold 40 sa, you measure it by the outside of the material of the actual wagon itself. In other words, the material that's making up the wagon is included in that 40 sa. So if altogether with the walls of the wagon it contains 40 sa, then it becomes not a keli. If it's not a keli, then it doesn't become tameh. It doesn't become tameh, then it protects things that are above it from becoming tameh. Let's say there's a mace underneath the wagon. So if the wagon is small and it's considered a keli, the wagon becomes tameh and the things above it become tameh. But if it's not a keli, then it protects from what's above it. It itself doesn't become tameh. So it goes like this: that let's say the wagon also has wheels. Let's assume the wagon has wheels. Now it says like this: that muchani shala, the wheels, or maybe the wheel system, if the wheels come off the wagon, so ein chibala, it's not considered attached to it. That means that if the wagon for some reason becomes tameh, the wheels are not necessarily tameh, and the opposite. If the wheels become tameh, then the wagon doesn't become tameh. It's not considered attached, just that because it happens to be together right now. It's considered two separate instruments. Let's say you're looking to create a shear of 40 sa to see if it's a keli. You don't measure the material of the wheels together with the wagon because it's not considered attached like that. And it doesn't save in a oil ames. Rashi has a whole discussion here for you're actually talking about you're in an oil or if the wagon itself is an oil. Rashi wants to say that the wagon's an oil. You're not talking about that you're actually in another oil. So what does this mean over here? If there are utensils that are sticking out of the wagon, but the wheels are large wheels, and the wheels are are sticking out over those utensils. So the opposite. The wheels are underneath the utensils. The wheels won't protect those vessels because the wheels are considered utensils, even though the wagon is not considered a utensil. So, all of this was all for this one sentence at the end. You can't drag it on Shabbos if there's money on it. But if there's no money on it, try it, then you could move it. Even though there was possibly money on it, you made a whole distinction of it when you're allowed to move this wagon, as if there's money on it. How do you know? Maybe even if there's no money on it, you can't move it, because there was money on it. It must be that doesn't matter. We don't say Hayel Viskatzai. That Marian says Zahu Reb Shimon Glesli Muktzah. That's Reb Shimon. That Mishnah is Reb Shimon that doesn't care about all of this Hayel Viskatzai because he doesn't hold of Muktzah. Well, this gets us into a little bit of an issue because he said if there is money on it, you can't move it. According to Reb Shimon, he doesn't hold of Muktzah. Rashi says Reb Shimon would agree that Oidan Allah it's Asr. While it's on it, Reb Shimon would agree. Reb Shimon wouldn't hold a Hayel Viskatzai. That just because it was on it Ben Hashmashas, that means that the rest of Shabbos you can't use it. That Reb Shimon wouldn't hold it. But while the money's on it, that would be Asr. Now I'm not sure why. We learned that while a candle is burning, Reb Shimon said that he can't move it. That we said because Shemi Yechaba Haner, Rashi said. Chutz min haner adoilek b'Shabbos. Adoilek b'Shabbos. But once it goes out, you're allowed to move the candle. Rashi explained why were you allowed to move a candle? Why were you not allowed to move it? Because you might extinguish it while you're moving it. Unless we say that was that's a havamina. What it really means is that there is a concept of muktzah in Reb Shimon. It's just not as the concept of muktzah in Reb Shimon's world is just much less than in everyone else's. But there is some sort of muktzah. Later on today, the Gemara is going to discuss where Reb Shimon would agree to muktzah. Anyway, we have an example here that while the money's on it, it's muktzah. Okay, so who quoted the story before about the bed that has the money on it? That was Rabbi Yehuda Marav. That we said that if there's money on it, Ben Hashmashas, then it's going to be an issue. For Rav, Rabbi Yehuda Sfirlai. Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is the Tana Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Lai. He holds that he's the one the proponent of muktzah. He says there is a concept of muktzah. So he says that if it's on it Ben Hashmashas, it's a problem. Reb Shimon holds that there's no problem of being on the if the money is on the bed Ben Hashmashas or the wagon. Now we're on top of Daf Mem Hey. How can I mistabra the Rav Rabbi Yehuda? It also makes sense to say that Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Dama Rav says Minichin ner al gabi dekel b'Shabbos. Two issues here. One issue is muktzah. A lamp becomes muktzah. Another issue is that a tree is muktzah. So, Erev Shabbos, I'm allowed to take a lamp and put it on a tree. Why? Because when the lamp goes out, maybe you take it off the tree. And you're not allowed to put things and take things from a tree. As well, the lamp itself is muktzah, so you're not going to take it off the tree. So Rav said that you're allowed to put the lamp on a tree on Shabbos. It means then it will burn on Shabbos. Why? Because even though you're not allowed to take it off the tree, when it goes out and there's a concern, don't put it on the tree. You may end up taking it off the tree on Shabbos. after it goes out. So that's not a concern because Rav holds you can't move the lamp anyway, even after it goes out. See? Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that there is muktzah. According to Reb Shimon, it was only while the candle was burning that it was muktzah. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it's even after it goes out. So there's no concern that you're going to move it. For some reason, where no one's telling you don't light lamps because they're going to be muktzah after they go out. No one's saying that. We're just saying that don't place your lamp on a tree because you might end up removing it off a tree. That's the concern. But if it's muktzah anyway, you're not going to move it. So that would be okay. Okay. However, the distinction between Shabbos and Yom Tov is clear, because on Yom Tov you're allowed to use a lamp. You're allowed to light a fire. A lamp doesn't become muktzah. You have a yahrzeit candle, whatever. You have a lamp. You can move it around. So, but you're not allowed to move it off a tree. So on Yom Tov, don't put the lamp on the tree because there's more of a concern that you might end up moving it off the tree. Now, if Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda, then that's why it's permissible to place the lamp on a tree Erev Shabbos and it should burn there on Shabbos because you're not going to move it anyway. That's why Shabbos is more lenient here than Yom Tov. Yom Tov is more strict because you may move it off the tree. Mali Shabbos, Mali Yom Tov. What's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov? Either way, once it goes out, you're allowed to move it. You're allowed to move it. If it's on a tree, there's going to be an issue. So it must be that Rav holds like Rabbi Yehuda. That's what the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov. That the lamp itself remains muktzah on Shabbos, but not on Yom Tov. The Gemara asks, Rav Rabbi Yehuda Svirlei. Does Rav really hold like Rabbi Yehuda that holds of muktzah? But they asked Rav, Ma little tule shraga de chanukta mikame chavroi b'shabbata. Are you allowed to remove the Hanukkah candle, which was placed in the gateway, towards the street? Are you allowed to move it on Shabbos after it goes out? Because there's the chavroi there. Those are the Persian group that didn't allow candles burning, or they only allowed it burning in their Avodah Zarah house. So are you allowed to move it? And Rav said, Vamalu Shapradami. Rav said that, yeah, it's no problem. You are allowed to move it. See? Rav doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda. He says you're allowed to move a lamp after it goes out. Rav says, whoa, that was a very serious issue. That was Shasat Chak Shani. You can't bring a proof from there. That was a time of oppression. Over there, we relaxed the opinion. The Amalei Rav Kana, the Rav Asi, it's supposed to be. The Rav, Achi Helchasa, they asked him, is that the halacha? Amalu Kedayu Reb Shimon Lismach La B'Shasat Chak. It's a famous quote. That Kedayu Reb Shimon, Reb Shimon is good enough that B'Shasat Chak, you can rely on it. You can rely on Reb Shimon B'Shasat Chak. Even though Rav really passes like Rav Yehuda, but B'Shasat Chak will rely on Reb Shimon. Usually we say the other way. Usually we say that, how does it work when they teach this to you when you learn your idea? All of a sudden you're introduced to these hefsid meruba concepts. Depends how much money it's worth. If it's worth a lot of money, then it's kosher. Otherwise, it's awesome. What does the value have to do with, is it kosher or not? Say no. Nikra din, really, it's kosher. But try to be more strict. So if it doesn't have the main halacha is really that it is kosher. We just try to be strict. So where's the ikar adin? The ikar adin is by the hefsid meruba. That's where you see the ikar adin. Anyway, over here we're saying that no, Rav passes like Rabbi Yehuda. But b'shasat chak, he relies on Reb Shimon. It's like a little the opposite of the way we understand it. Okay, Boimine Rish Lakish mi Rabbi Yechanan. Rish Lakish has a question. He asks Rabbi Yechanan, his brother-in-law. It's a complex question. It says, Chitim shezaran bekarka, ubeitzim shetachas tanagelas, mahu. He's asking according to Reb Shimon. So what happened here was that someone took wheat, he put it in the ground. Now the wheat in the ground is going to grow. So if you uproot it, it didn't take root yet. It didn't take root yet. It's just placed in a little hole in the ground. But it's been designated for planting. So it's been set aside. So it's really not for eating on Shabbos. Let's read another line. When does Reb Shimon say that we don't hold of muktzah is an issue? Muktzah is not a problem for us. When does he say that? Does he say that only if you didn't actually take it with your hands and put it aside? But if you did put it aside with your hands, then he holds of muktzah. Maybe he holds, doesn't matter what you did. There's no muktzah. So here we have wheat, and that was put aside. Will Reb Shimon agree that there is a concept of muktzah if you actually designate it for non-use on Shabbos? What's the case of the Eitzim Shetachas Tarnageles? See, you didn't really do anything there. It's just sitting on the eggs. That's what they say there. As opposed to the other one, you actually took it and you put it in the ground. Well, here you actually placed it under the Tanageles. Okay, that's what you did. You actually placed it. That's the issue. So it was Tchiyah biyadayim. He said, I'm not using this on Shabbos by placing it under the roof, under the hand. Right? So that's Rish Lakish's question. It gets very complicated because there's an issue of how you're taking the seeds out of the ground. If it takes time to take root, let's say someone on Shabbos plants a seed in the ground. Did he violate Shabbos? Well, he planted. So yeah, but it didn't take root yet. So when does it take root? I guess it takes root after Shabbos. So if someone takes it out of the ground, did he uproot? No, he didn't uproot. You see clearly it's not uprooting. It's not uprooting. This is I think we discussed this earlier. If someone's put something in the oven before Shabbos and it bakes, once Shabbos is out, how does the malacha work? How does it work? Okay. So Amar Lei, Rabbi Yechon responds, Ein muktzah Reb Shimon, ela shemen shebener b'shoshu toila. Reb Shimon only has one muktzah, not this. This is the oil that's in the lamp while it's burning. Oil v'huktzah l'mitzvasei, huktzah l'yisuri. Let's read it. Oil v'huktzah l'mitzvasei v'huktzah l'yisuri. That's what I have on the side. Because there's two issues over there. It was designated for the mitzvah of Shabbos. And you're not allowed to put it out. So because of the mitzvah and the prohibition of putting it out, that is a special case where Reb Shimon holds, so that's really muktzah. But other cases, just because you put a seed in the ground or you put an egg under a chicken, that's not muktzah. You don't have an isser over there. You don't have a mitzvah there. It's not muktzah. Umar asks, what about just muktzah because of the mitzvah itself? You threw two things over here. You said that it's a mitzvah and it's an isser, the isser of extinguishing the fire. That's why you're not allowed to move a lamp. Even according to Reb Shimon, that doesn't hold muktzah, but here it's a special category. What about if it was just the mitzvah itself? Would that designate it as muktzah? Well, Tanya, we have a brisa that says that it would. It says like this: Sichacha kilchasa. Someone has a sukkah, he put on proper schach, and the itra b'kramim, he decorated it with colorful cloths. B'sadinim amitziyarim, and tapestries, designs on these sheets. The Talaba Geizim, he hung up decorations. It's not a Chabad sukkah. He hung up walnuts. A farsikin is peaches, shkedim, verimainim, almonds, pomegranates, a farchale shel anavim. This is a branch that the clusters of grapes are on. The itris shel shibalim. This is a wreath of wheat, the circles, things. It's like a crown. They would make these things for the winners of the Olympics. These little crowns for the. Anyway, this is a crown of wheat stalks, and this is decorating the sukkah. Yenes shemanim eslasis. Somehow you hang up wine, probably in some jug, oil and flour. You hang it up as decorations in the sukkah. You're not allowed to use it until after the end holiday, until after, I guess that means Shmini Atzeres. Now, what we're learning is that even Chol Hamoed, you're not allowed to use it. Even though there's no problem to take apart a tent on Chol Hamoed. You're allowed to build a sukkah on Chol Hamoed. You're allowed to take it apart. What's the issue? It's a mitzvah that you designated this for the mitzvah of sukkah. So it becomes iskatzoi. It becomes designated. See, Reb Shimon holds that iskatzoi, that there is a concept of muktzah just because of a mitzvah. But if you made a condition, you said, I'm only putting this up, not to designate for non-use. I'm putting it up that I want to be able to take some grapes off the cluster as well, maybe to dip my bread in the oil that's hanging up there. So that I want to do that. So then that's acceptable. So it's a kasha. Reb Shimon holds that it's even mutter, that there's a concept of muktzah even if it's just for a mitzvah. The Gemara asks the obvious question: Mimayder Reb Shimon? In that whole brisa, you never mentioned Reb Shimon. You're asking a kasha as if that's Reb Shimon. How do you know it's Reb Shimon? Well, it says the Tani Reb Chia Bar Yosef Tamid Rabbi Yechanan ein noit lenetzim min hasukah biyamtiv ela min hasamachla Reb Shimon mater shavin b'sukas hachag b'chag sheyasura v'nisna lakol fi tonight. Okay, this throws us off a little bit because it says you can't take wood from a sukkah on Yom Tov. The funny thing is that this Yom Tov is referring to Pesach and Shavuos. So you can't take wood from a sukkah on Pesach and Shavuos. Only from the side. What's the concern over there? That's actually a concern of stiras oil. You're breaking a tent. You have a tent. You're not allowed to take it apart on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to build on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to take it apart. However, talking about that even if the tent actually fell on its own. Why? Because it became muktzah. Reb Shimon says, no, it's not a problem. There's no muktzah there. Fell down, and there's no problem of breaking the tent. Because the tent isn't up anymore. It fell on its own. So Reb Shimon holds you could take the wood from it. Again, it's Yom Tov. What are you going to do with the wood? Well, you have a fire. You're going to use it for cooking. It's Yom Tov. Regular Yom Tov meal you have to cook. So you have a sukkah outside in the back that just collapsed. There's a machlokes if you're allowed to take the wood from there. Shimon says yes. But they agree that sukkah sachag b'chag sheyasura. That if it's sukkahs, that it becomes iskatzoi for the mitzvah. Rashi points out, says, why do you have to quote to me the brisa before? And then tell me that it's a proof that that price is Reb Shimon. Because he quotes me, Reb Chia Bar Yosef taught in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Reb Shimon holds this. What? Just quote Reb Chia Bar Yosef. He says, well, we wanted to quote from a brisa. A brisa is better. It's taught by Reb Chia and Rabbi Shia. That's better. So we support that the brisa taught by Reb Chia is the opinion of Reb Shimon by now quoting Reb Chia Bar Yosef, a later Amira, that teaches in front of Rabbi Yochanan that this is the opinion of Reb Shimon. And okay, now we have a real question. Reb Shimon apparently holds that there's muktzah if it was designated for a mitzvah. My answer is Ke'en Shemen Shebener Kamrinan. No, we didn't merely mean that it's only Shemen Shebener that has both of those things, that it's a mitzvah and there's an isser of putting it out. But anything that's like Shemen Shebener, which is a mitzvah, is also Hayel B'Huktzel Mitzvah, Huktzel Yisuri. Now, that's why there was the Girsa was a little strange before. Do you say Hayel B'Huktzel Mitzvah, V'Huktzel Yisuri, or do you read it Hayel B'Huktzel Mitzvah? Because it was designated for a mitzvah, so now it's also Huktzel Yisuri that you can't move it. And Yisuri means moving. Okay. So Reb Shimon apparently does hold that there is a concept of muktzah, as we see from Sukkah. There's a concept of Huktzel Mitzvasa. And also the candle for Shabbos was Huktzel Mitzvasa while it's burning. While it's burning, it's Huktzel Mitzvasa.
So Reb Shimon holds there is a concept of muktzah, but not for the sake of Shabbos Stam. Is that the correct statement?
It involves Shabbos. There's a concept of muktzah, but it's not the regular muktzah that I have something that I wasn't going to use, it's automatically muktzah. No, that's not how it works. It's only if it's actually a strong sort of muktzah that it's been a strong designation that this is what it's prepared for, not just a plain muktzah.
For example, he might not hold that a stone that's just a stone on your property is not muktzah.
Yeah. However, we had a source somewhere that said, you're right, something along those lines. We had a source. It's very confusing what's Reb Shimon's really shita, what his shita is. It would be much easier to say Reb Shimon doesn't hold of muktzah.
Right.
But we're not doing that. We're saying that he doesn't hold of plain muktzah. But now in this, there's so many different categories. In some, he may agree to, small things.
Happy birthday, Naftali.
Thank you.
Very nice.
If I can interrupt for a second, my father-in-law was nifter last night. So, Baruch ben Yisrael HaKohen.
Dynamics.
Okay, and in his memory. Okay. So many good things. We're holding Itmar Nami. You see that? Itmar Nami. It was also taught, Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ein muktzah Reb Shimon ela ke'en shemen shebener. The only muktzah for Reb Shimon is something that's like shemen shebener, that there was a mitzvah to light this candle, you lit it, while it's burning, it's muktzah. B'shashu dailach while it's burning. Ha'il huktzel mitzvah se'huktzel yisuri. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Ein muktzah Reb Shimon ela gregers v'tzimukim bilvad. Now we have more exceptions. Reb Shimon holds that there's muktzah by dried figs and dried grapes, raisins. Okay. What happens over here? Figs you can eat fresh, and you can eat them dried, and grapes also you can eat fresh and dried. In the middle of being fresh and being dried, you can't eat them. They give off a smell or something. So It has to be nishtahin, nishtaher. That doesn't work. It has to be either fresh or dry. In the middle, it isn't good. So Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel says that according to Reb Shimon, there's one more type of muktzah, and that is when you designate it for drying, then that's out. That's out of reach. No one eats it over there. That really has no use. And that's going to be another type of muktzah. Gemara says, Midachin alai. Really? That's it? There's only that muktzah? V'atanya, by figs and raisins. V'atanya, hayaychal b'teinim. Let's say someone was eating. We don't make a big deal about the hayaychal b'teinim at the beginning. It's not so relevant, but it's a story. He was eating figs. And he has some extra. He didn't eat his whole plate. So, v'helam l'gag lasanem gregers. He brings them up to the roof. He'll dry them. To make them into dried figs. Banavim, or he's eating grapes. And he has extra. So, v'helam l'gag lasanem tzimukim. He puts them on the roof. He'll make them into raisins. So, lo yoichal, can't eat from them ad sheyazmin, until they become designated as food. They become muktzah. And the same thing applies to peaches and quince and other types of fruits. See? It applies to other things as well. You said that it's only for figs and raisins. But apparently there's other fruits also that if they're designated for drying, even though those fruits that are designated for drying, possibly you could eat them in between. But no, you put them aside. So it's too late. You put them aside. That's like it's like you're being mocked to be a diamond. Reb Shimon would agree to that. You notice Rashi says chavushim towards the bottom of the Rashi says kvins. If you read a vav as with a v sound, so kvins. Okay. The Gemara says, well, how do you know that this is Reb Shimon's opinion? Mani, whose opinion is this? Eily, Rabbi Yehuda, if you say it's Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda would hold, if you didn't have it in your container that you designated it for Shabbos, then it's already muktzah. Just if you put it in the back room, you weren't planning on using it. Rabbi Yehuda's muktzah is much stricter than this. He doesn't need to say that you put it aside for drying. As long as it wasn't designated for yes use, it would have been muktzah. Ella la'av Reb Shimoni. It must be Reb Shimon that really Reb Shimon holds that usually things are not muktzah, but over here because it designated for drying, they're muktzah. You see that it's not just figs and raisins. It says li'aylam Rabbi Yehuda. Really, it is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Remember, we started off saying that it didn't matter the fact that he was eating and he had extra. That was just part of the story. No, this is an integral part of this halacha. Could have thought, a lot of times someone eats and there's a little bit left over. He says, okay, I'm full, I'm not going to eat the rest. And then he looks at it a little more. He changes his mind. He eats the rest. So how much do you want? He say a little portion, and then he takes another portion and another. So here he thought he was finished, but maybe he wasn't really finished. He's gonna take more. So it shouldn't become muktzah. He was in the middle of eating. Just because even for benching, we don't say until he washes mayim achreinim. We don't say that it's the meal's all over. He says, yeah, I'm full. Yeah, but he still eats more. So here also, maybe he's going to eat more. Kamash Malon, keeping the hell Nagag. No, here he already did an action. He walked him up to the roof. So then, so then it's finished. So the Chiddush is according to Rabbi Yehuda, even though he was in the middle of eating, but because he did this action to designate it out, so then it becomes Matzah. Reb Shimon bar Rebbe mi Rebbe. Reb Shimon, the son of Rebbe, asked his father, Rebbe, is he quoted in the Mishnayos in Pirkei Avos? No, we have Rabbi Yehuda bar Rabbi. No, we have Ram Gamliel bar Rabbi. Maybe after that is Avram Nassan, you remember? Perik base. You're muted.
I'm sorry, what are you asking about?
Is there a Reb Shimon bar Rabbi in the Pirkei Avos?
I don't remember that name, ever hearing that name. Shouldn't been Rebbe?
Reb Shimon bar Yehuda Nasi. Then Rabbi Yehuda Nasi.
I don't remember ever hearing that.
Okay. Anyway, here he is. He has another son. He says like this: Fetzilei Tamara. These are fresh dates, but they're not ripe yet. The Reb Shimon Mahu. See, these are they're not ripe. We had a where Reb Shimon would agree if something was designated for drying. So it's set aside, you have to wait for something for it to dry. Here, you're waiting for it to ripen. Would this also be muktzah for Reb Shimon? Okay. Yes, he asks his father. We're assuming the fact that this conversation is taking place that they hold of Reb Shimon Shita. And asking this would Reb Shimon agree that this is muktzah? Amalei ein muktzah Reb Shimon el gregus v'tzimukim bilvad. No, it's not muktzah. Okay, the Gemara says, Rebbe Leslie muktzah. Rabbi doesn't hold of muktzah. In other words, Rabbi holds of Reb Shimon's opinion. But Tanan, we have a Mishnah. Ein mashkin v'sheichten asamid barius. This is on Yom Tiv. You're allowed to shecht on Yom Tiv, but the animals need to be your own animals that you had ready for shechita. Wild animals that just show up are considered muktzah. You didn't have in mind that those are going to be shechted. Just happened to show up in your yard. You see a deer over there. Something, you can't give it to drink because it wasn't designated for shechita, for eating. It's not, your responsibility either. And you can't shecht it. These are animals that come from the midbaris. It just means wild animals from outside. Aval mashkin shechten is a bayasis, but domestic animals from the house. Those you're allowed to give to drink, and you're also allowed to shecht. Bitanya, no start in the brisa. Eily in midbariyos. These are the wild animals. Kol sheyetzis bepesach v'nechnasis b'reviyah. Animals that leave Pesach time for the summer, and they come back for the winter. So those are considered outside animals. Bayasis kol sheyetzis v'reis chutzatchem v'bayis v'nas b'techatchem. Domestic animals, they come back in the evening. And they, not necessarily to the house, but they come back to the area. Rabbi Yomer, Eily Bayasis say, no, if they live by you in the winter, that's considered a domestic animal. The Elohim Midbarius, the ones that are really wild, is Kol Shirayas, the Efer, Veinechnasas Liyishuv, Lebi Mesacham, Leisa Geshamim. These ones that are out there in the dust, I guess, Efer is dust. And they don't come in at all to inhabited areas, not in the summer, not in the winter. Well, apparently, Rabbi holds of muktzah. Rabbi says that animals that weren't designated for eating, you can't shecht them. You never designated them out. They just were never designated in for use. That would be the machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon, if that's muktzah. If you never did anything to designate it. So the Gemara says like this: well, once we have an exception, we can say that these fall into that exception as well. It's as if they've been designated out. You would never, imagine that you would be using them. to shech them. So it's as if they're like, the grapes that are set aside for drying, for raisins. Okay, I guess it's hard to bring them, and it's whatever. Iba Yasema, another teretz. What were we talking about? The question. He was asking about fresh dates that aren't ripe yet. That was Reb Shimon's question to his father, Rabbi. So he said, Reb Shimon bar Rebbe is asking, Rabbi, what's Reb Shimon bar Yochai's opinion regarding those fresh dates that aren't ripe? It says it could be Reb Shimon Kamar just because he asked the question doesn't mean that's what he holds of. Oh, a date. I see the date. Okay. Iba Yisem, another teretz l'devrayim derabanan kamar lahu l'didi lesli makzaklal l'ditchoy d'slim yes deich d'yetzes b'pesach l'nas b'reviyah d'bayasas nenu v'rabanan amar le'loi midbaris nenu. Look, there was a conversation, Rabbi and the Rabbanan, regarding what's considered a domestic animal. From that conversation, we understood that Rabbi holds that there's a concept of muktzah, and only certain animals you're allowed to shech. It's very possible that Rabbi doesn't hold that this is all necessary. It's very possible that that conversation between Rabbi and the Rabbanan about what's considered domestic was all in the Rabbanan's opinion. Rabbi says, look, to me, all of this doesn't matter because I hold that you're allowed to shecht any animal, even a wild animal that shows up in your yard. You're allowed to shecht it on Yom Tov. I don't hold of muktzah. There's no problem. It was never designated out. It just wasn't thought of at all. But for you, Rabbanan, that you do make a big deal that it needs to be designated for use. So for you, you should just know that if it comes back in the winter, that's considered designated for use. And you should accept that. But that doesn't mean that Rabbi doesn't hold of Reb Shimon. It could be Rabbi really holds of Reb Shimon. So we gave different options here. Either Rabbi holds of Reb Shimon, but animals are also exactly like the exception that they designated. Or Reb Shimon bar Rabbi never meant to say that we hold like Reb Shimon. Or Rabbi that was arguing with the Rabbanan never meant to say that he doesn't hold like Reb Shimon. He was just telling the Rabbanan that don't hold the Reb Shimon. So you have all the possibilities here. Amar Rabba bar Barchana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi bar Barchana says in the name of Rabbi Yechanan, Amru, they stated in the yeshiva that halacha Reb Shimon. Halacha is like Reb Shimon. Wow, we have a lenient opinion. You hear this? Halacha is like Reb Shimon. That's what they said. The Gemara asks straight away, Mi amar Rabbi Yechanan hachi, really? Rabbi Yechanan really said that Allah is like Reb Shimon, there's no muktzah. There was this elder. It's either his name was Kruya or maybe came from Kruya. I'm not sure what that means. Yeah, he came from a place Kruya, that's what he was called. He was called Kruya. This older person from Kruya or from Sruya. Was probably when they started to make the soft C. In Old Greek, they didn't have a C that was soft. Kikero. It wasn't Cicero, like we say. They had everything was hard. Kaiser, we say Caesar. It's Kaiser. Anyway, it was called Kruya, but some say that it was Syria. Okay, that's an easy explanation. So anyway, he asked from Rabbi Yechanan, Kina shel tarnagaylas mal l'taltuli b'Shabbos. The place, I guess this is like a coop, or a chicken coop, or something like that. A box for the chickens. Are you allowed to move it around on Shabbos? Amalei klamasi el tarnagaylan. Rabbi Yechanan responds, it's only made for the chickens, which means no. You're not allowed to move it. But what exactly was the issue there? Because based on that, we're going to want to say that Rabbi Yochanan actually holds that there is muktzah. So the Gemara says, this way of the issue over here is that that the chicken coop becomes muktzah, but it becomes muktzah in a way that even Reb Shimon would agree that this is muktzah. Why? Okay, there's a discussion about cutting up a dead animal. For your dogs. If an animal dies on Shabbos, you're allowed to cut up the meat for the dogs. The issue is that it's muktzah because you weren't expecting this to have any use the next day. You know, when Shabbos came in, it was a regular live animal, and you weren't designated it for dog food, right? It didn't have that. So there's a discussion regarding, let's say the animal was sick. So there was a possibility that the next day it would be usable for dog food. So here we're saying that there's a young chicken that died in this coop. It's totally muktzah because you had no, you're totally surprised that this died. So even Reb Shimon would agree that this is a type of muktzah that he agrees to. The freyach meis. The fact that it was alive yesterday tells me that it was designated for non-use. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Rava, it's supposed to be. He said that he holds that if an animal dies on Shabbos, that you can't cut it up for your dogs, because before Shabbos it wasn't designated as dog food; it was a regular live animal. So therefore, Reb Shimon agrees that there is a concept of muktzah, at least by Balei Chayim, even though they died, and now they do have a use. But nevertheless, when Shabbos came in, they were designated for non-use. So then we understand why this Tina Shel Tarnagolos is muktzah, because of the dead efrayach that's in there, because Reb Shimon agrees that this is a concept of muktzah. It's according to Mar Bar Meimar. Ela Lamar Breder Reb Yosef Mishmeder Avadar Machalaka Reb Shimon Afilu Bebalachim Shemesu Shem Mutar. According to the other opinion that says Reb Shimon agrees. Reb Shimon, he argues with the sages, but his opinion would be that there is no muktzah, and even Balei Shemesuar you're allowed to move. So why can't you move the coop? Well, so what? There's a dead bird in it. So what? If an animal dies on Shabbos, you can cut it up for the dogs. He doesn't hold of muktzah even in that case. So the Gemara says, oh, there's an egg. An egg that was noiled on Shabbos, that's muktzah. Noiled, it's a problem. It wasn't ready yesterday, and it was noiled today, that's muktzah. Gemara says, 1 second. The whole concept of noiled was only a concept of muktzah. And if you don't hold of muktzah, because yesterday it wasn't prepared, and it was born today, so it became muktzah. If you don't hold of muktzah, you don't have the issue of noiled. It's the circulatory, you're saying that, why is it muktzah? Because of noiled. But why is it noiled? Why is there issue of noiled? That's because of muktzah. Because it needs to be designated. So you can't claim that it's Reb Shimon has the noiled issue if he doesn't have a muktzah issue. The whole issue of noiled, according to this, is that
Before Shabbos came in, it wasn't designated for use. It wasn't here at all, actually. But that's only an issue if I have a muktzah issue. That muktzah means that it needs to be designated for use. But if I don't hold of that any muktzah issue, then noilad should be fine. So why is the kub going to be muktzah? It says no. This be beitzah sefrayach. There is a beitzah sefrayach. There is an egg, but the egg has in it a chick inside. So the dogs can't eat it because of the shell. The humans can't eat it. So this is the type of thing that really has no use. It's still actually alive. It's not dead. If it was dead, then we would have the use of the, if it was cracked, rather. Then it would have the animal food, like we said before. So Kiyasa Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Halachik Rabbi Yehuda. We have another story here. We just tried to answer up how Rabbi Yochanan holds that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, that there's no muktzah. He said he can't move a chicken coop. We came up that even according to Rabbi Shimon, we're able to get a case where it really is muktzah. Now Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef says that Rabbi Yochanan says, halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, no, there's always muktzah. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, halacha like Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shua ben Levi said halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, but Rabbi Yochanan said halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, Hainu damar Rabba bar B'chanan Rabbi Yochanan, Amru halacha Rabbi Shimon, Amru v'leilei svirlei. That Rabbi Yosef says, oh, that's what he meant, that Amru, they said the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. That means who? Rabbi Shua ben Levi said that, or the yeshiva said that. But Rabbi Yochanan himself, he holds that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. Let's leave it over there.